My legitimate younger sister has set her sights on my fiancé. She bestows upon him a pouch, assists him in scaling walls to admire the moon, and even engages in clandestine encounters, enticing my fiancé to come forth and annul our betrothal. While I am the subject of ridicule throughout the city, my sister, unashamed, prepares for marriage, declaring, "Fate is in my own hands. I pursue my happiness and freedom. What is wrong with that? What is there to discuss with someone like you, who is entrenched in the archaic notions of legitimate and illegitimate status?" She enjoys a grand marriage, while I am carried in a floral sedan chair to a humble courtyard at the end of an alley. A decade later, upon hearing that I have become a distinguished lady of high rank, my younger sister, in a fit of madness, rushes home, claiming that I have thwarted her chance to wed the disdainful, impoverished scholar. My younger sister is unwilling to attend the spring exploration banquet. She feigns illness, instructing her maid to disguise me as her likeness so that I may attend the banquet in her stead. At the spring exploration banquet, there are countless talented scholars and exquisite ladies. Sister, with your exquisite qualities, you must shine brilliantly. However, do not let your veil fall, lest they discover you are merely a secondary daughter of the residents. I nodded faintly, my complexion pale. I am aware that she is unwilling to attend the spring banquet solely because the newly minted top scholar, Lu Qingshan, will be present. He has been carefully chosen by our father as a suitable match for her, yet my legitimate sister is discontent and has thrown a tantrum, wreaking havoc and destroying countless treasures within the estate. Although our father was furious, he still attempted to counsel her gently, saying, "I understand your disdain for his humble origins. But this man is not an ordinary fellow. Your father was once a mere commoner, and look at him now, seated in the position of chancellor." My sister muttered, "Is it forbidden to speak of poverty?" Subsequently, she rebelliously scaled the walls of the estate and ran away from home. That very night, our father was consumed by anger. As I knelt by his side, I was struck by the inkstone he had hurled in frustration, yet I remained silent. He lowered his gaze to my face and, in a surprising act of compassion, inquired, "Is there something you wish to say?" "I have come to bid farewell to you, father." I recalled a few days prior when my mother had sought a suitor for me, stating, "Mother wishes for me to marry into the Wang family in the West Alley as a secondary wife." Father, distracted, nodded absent-mindedly, for I was merely a concubine's daughter. "I have heard that the eldest son of the Wang family has lost 3 wives, all of whom met their demise at his hands," I said, gritting my teeth. "I am somewhat afraid." "Your mother is meticulous. She would never allow such a lapse," Father replied impatiently. "That must be mere gossip. You need not worry about your impending marriage." He turned to leave. In a moment of desperation, I knelt before him, causing his gaze to fall upon an old, simple silver hairpin atop my head. It was a token of affection he had given to a huntress 2 decades ago when he was impoverished and journeying to the capital for the imperial examinations. It was also a relic left by my mother. A hint of remorse crossed Father's face. Seizing this fleeting moment, I spoke urgently. "If Mother could find a man of your caliber while being merely a huntress's daughter, I am not inferior to her and refuse to resign myself to marrying the eldest son of the Wang family." His inscrutable gaze lingered upon me. Yet he ultimately refrained from exposing my ruse. He removed the silver hairpin and, with a firm grip, snapped it in 2. As he toyed with the broken piece, he sighed, "It is a pity that Yunyang is no longer with us. Had she seen your intelligence, she would have been pleased. Henceforth, do not speak of her in my presence. If you are unwilling for me to marry the Wang heir, there is no need to rush the engagement. I shall discuss it with your mother. You should spend more time with Zishu, allowing her to learn from your character." With that, the 2 pieces of the silver hairpin clattered to the ground, resonating sharply as Father departed, leaving behind a final remark. As I picked up the broken hairpin, I regretted having worn it today, remembering it was my mother's favorite. Yet, had I not been driven to desperation, I would not have touched her relic. A few days prior, my mother had used me as a bargaining chip, intending to betroth me to the eldest son of the Wang family, as Fang Zishu was on the verge of reaching marriageable age. If I were not married off, her precious daughter would find it difficult to secure a match. Mother was solely preoccupied with Fang Zishu, neglecting my plight entirely. However, the eldest son of the Wang family was known for his cruelty and had a notorious record of violence. Indeed, Minister Fang was correct. I do not resemble my mother and cannot afford to be weak and compliant in every situation. Nor can I become like Feng Zishu, who, despite her many foolish and scandalous acts, is frequently praised as possessing a genuine character simply due to her beauty. 2. After Zishu ran away from home, she hurriedly sought refuge in my room, grasping my hand and pleading, "Sister, you must help me." I remained silent, engrossed in my embroidery. In recent days, she had been living a carefree life, having ingratiated herself into the most prominent brothel in Luoyang, seeking to find a suitable husband among the affluent elite. Since childhood, she had grown accustomed to a life of abandon, scoffing at decorum, and the world praised the Chancellor's legitimate daughter for her so-called authenticity and charm. I found this amusing. Had it not been for my presence to shield her from her foolishness, to bear her punishments, and to cover her lies, she would have been oblivious to the numerous foolish and disgraceful acts she had committed, and the name of Lu Mingxiu would never have been associated with her. Years ago, my mother had traveled far and wide in search of a husband, while father had long since remarried. To help me reclaim my heritage, she tragically met her end by crashing into a stone pillar at the entrance of the Chancellor's estate. Before her death, she brushed away my tears, saying, "Arue, do not cry. Your mother's death is of little consequence. From now on, I will make you the young lady of the Chancellor's estate." Yet in the end, I did not become the young lady. Instead, I became the illegitimate child of the Chancellor, reviled by all. The Chancellor's wife, envious and resentful, could not bear my existence. To survive, I had to strive desperately to please Feng Zishu, as I still had some utility to her, even if I was merely a thorn in the side of the Chancellor's wife. I have grown up in this manner. Seeing my indifference, Feng Zishu grew anxious. She seized a pair of scissors and shredded the handkerchief I was embroidering into tatters. I shot up, barely concealing my scornful gaze. "Sister, has the top scholar suddenly become unworthy of your attention, forcing you to seek a husband in a brothel?" On the day the results were announced, Minister Fong was actively seeking a son-in-law, and the entire city was aware that Lu Qingshan was destined to be a part of the Chancellor's family. Upon hearing this, Feng Zishu flew into a rage. Even on the day of the top scholar's parade, when the streets were filled with onlookers, she remained shut in, even going so far as to kill all the fish in the pond of our state. How dare he be so proud as to marry me? I refuse to be part of an arranged marriage. I am worthy of marrying a prince at the very least. She berated Lu Qingshan within the estate, unaware that one of her maidservants, mistook a man nearly 40 years of age for Lu Qingshan, hastily reporting this to her. On that day, I sat in a tavern by the street when Lu Qingshan rode by. He appeared calm, draped in a red robe, a slight smile playing at the corners of his lips, exuding youthful charm. I raised the window, and at that moment, he happened to glance up. His dark eyes clear and unpretentious, as if he could peer into my very soul. A nearby maidservant exclaimed, "Miss, the future second uncle has looked over. He is quite handsome." I was momentarily entranced. In that fleeting instant, I recalled my legitimate sister's constant refrain: "My fortune does not stem from my legitimacy or your illegitimacy, but rather from my own cleverness." Yet, she, basking in her favored status, remained unaware that those who are favored tend to fare better, regardless of their birth status. Our father favored Feng Zishu, devoting immense effort to selecting a suitor for her, while he withheld even a modicum of consideration for my own marriage. 3. At my feet, the remnants of the embroidered handkerchief lay scattered. Feng Zishu sighed softly. "Never mind, I did not seek you out to quarrel." She had come to me with a request. During her days at the brothel, the madam, mistaking her for a homeless young girl, had sold her to a family as a concubine meant to bring good fortune to a sickly man. When Feng Zishu awoke, she found herself confronted by a frail, crooked-eyed man and, in a fit of rage, bound him to the bed and beat him mercilessly. The sickly man, unable to withstand her wrath, perished immediately. Grasping my hand, her eyes filled with emotion, she implored, "Sister, I have caused another calamity. You are my dearest. You must have a solution." Feng Zishu spoke as if it were all a trivial matter, but I felt a chill run through me. After all, it was a life that had been lost. I stumbled to my feet, wrenching my hand from hers. "I have no solution. You have come to the wrong person. The deceased was not an ordinary individual. He was the sole heir of the Minister of Justice. Feng Zishu pouted, insisting that the sickly man deserved his fate, lamenting only her misfortune in inadvertently harming him. This is not about your schooling, your reputation, or your punishment, I said firmly, shaking my head. That was a life taken. To kill is to pay with one's own life. Suddenly, my sister's feigned innocence vanished, replaced by a malicious grin. Oh, that is not up to you to decide, dear sister. For those days I used your face to swagger about. If you do not assist me, I may very well reveal everything to our parents, and they will surely find a way to help me. In our daily lives, we often exchanged roles effortlessly, and she could impersonate me without any difficulty. I trembled with rage. Feng Zishu, with a mischievous smile, said, Sister, do consider this carefully, otherwise I will have no choice but to be honest with our parents. With that, she turned to leave. I hurriedly grasped her arm, saying, Do not fret, I shall take the blame for you. The chief minister of the court of judicature buried his son, turning white-haired overnight, while the murderous concubine who had brought about this tragedy seemed to have vanished from existence. The entire city of Luoyang was abuzz with the news. Yet, astonishingly, the chief minister had failed to uncover anything at the residence of the Xiang family. Feng Zishu, appearing unfazed, remarked, Sister is truly fortunate. The chief minister has spent a lifetime solving cases, yet cannot even find the true culprit behind his son's death. I could not muster a smile as I returned to my small courtyard. I understood more than she did that the truth would inevitably come to light, and if my father and stepmother were to discover it, they would undoubtedly make me the scapegoat for Feng Zishu. Outside, someone knocked and entered. It was Feng Zishu's maid. Perhaps due to the presence of Lu Qingshan at the spring banquet, Feng Zishu had invited me to join the festivities. The carriage jostled, and noticing my pale complexion, the two maids who were watching over me feigned concern, asking, Miss, are you unwell? It's nothing, merely my monthly cycle, I replied. During the year of my first menstruation, my stepmother had deliberately thrown a bracelet into the pond, insisting I retrieve it before I could come ashore. Since then, I had been afflicted with a lingering ailment. Every month, the pain would feel like torture. At the spring banquet, many noble ladies and talented scholars gathered. Only I wore a veil, a common sight since Feng Zishu, the legitimate daughter of the Xiang family, preferred to cover her face when venturing out. Indeed, Lu Qingshan was present, dressed simply yet elegantly, embodying the demeanor of a gentleman. The rumors of his affair with Feng Zishu had spread throughout the city. A young man beside him laughed, saying, Lu, I have heard that your engagement with the daughter of the Feng family is imminent. Is this true? Another scion of an official family interjected. On that day, he did not agree to the proposal from the Feng chancellor, nor would Lu have any desire to marry the chancellor as a father-in-law. Would he? Upon hearing this, several faces turned pale, with various expressions, mockery, embarrassment, shock, especially those who had sought to court Feng Zishu only to be shown the door. While others lamented their unrequited love for her, Lu Qingshan seemed indifferent. I am but a man of humble means. How could I burden the precious daughter of the chancellor? He replied, and an immediate hush fell over the crowd. Those young men who loved Feng Zishu but could not win her affection patted his shoulder in sympathy, saying, Lu, there is no need for false humility. You will surely rise to greatness in time. The murmured conversations reached my ears, and I scoffed quietly. He simply did not wish to marry Feng Zishu, yet he spoke with such decorum. The maids beside me appeared anxious. For Feng Zishu had already convinced herself that Lu Qingshan was ensnared by her charm and had recently sent people to spread rumors to tarnish his reputation. Lu Qingshan likely paid no heed to such trivialities, allowing Feng Zishu to indulge in her petty antics. The maids gritted their teeth, urging, Miss, you must perform splendidly today, making that Lu fellow regret his decision. I smiled as usual. Feng Zishu's embarrassment was a source of delight for me. The mother and daughter pair were nothing but wolves who devoured flesh without spitting out the bones. At the banquet, each young lady showcased her talents, vying for attention. The Qin family daughter played the guzheng, the Song family daughter painted, and the Chu family daughter danced. The scholars were captivated, their eyes wide with admiration. Meanwhile,
he sat leisurely, sipping tea.
The maids became as restless as ants on a hot pan, whispering in my ear. Our Mrs. reputation as the renowned beauty of Luoyang will soon be overshadowed. You must do something. I have already stated my discomfort today, I replied, shifting my position. Perhaps it would be better to send for my second sister instead. The two maids immediately hushed me. Typically, when I attended banquets, Fang Zishu's carriage awaited nearby, ready to switch places once I had taken the spotlight. However, if they were to switch now, given Fang Zishu's mediocre skills in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, she would likely become a laughingstock. She cherished her reputation too much to engage in such folly. At the spring banquet, everyone was in high spirits. The Empress appeared cheerful, her eyes sparkling with delight, yet they swept over me momentarily. Zishu seems rather uninspired today. Perhaps she does not enjoy this banquet, she remarked. My expression faltered, but I forced a smile, replying, Not at all, Your Majesty. Recently, the Empress Dowager celebrated her birthday, and I am in need of a longevity painting as a gift. Would you be so kind as to create one for me? The Empress's gaze suddenly fell upon Lu Qingshan. The top scholar seems unusually quiet today. I have heard that his painting skills are exceptional. Why not have you both paint half of the piece together? It would be fitting for the Empress Dowager's birthday celebration. Since the Empress had spoken, it was only proper to comply. Just as Lu Qingshan and I were preparing to paint, the Empress ordered a large sheet of rice paper. Smiling as she said, One is the renowned beauty of Luoyang, and the other is the top scholar of the dynasty. I want each of you to paint half, as only that would be worthy of the Empress Dowager's celebration. I nearly stumbled at the notion. Lu Qingshan also frowned slightly, clearly reluctant to be near me. The others exchanged knowing glances, eager for amusement, gathering around the blank paper, some teasing. What a fated connection. It cannot be avoided. Should the painting turn out well, it would likely lead to further romantic entanglements between Fang Zishu and Lu Qingshan. One of the maids tugged at my sleeve, silently warning me, Miss, you must not. I feigned ignorance. Fang Zishu was afraid of marrying Lu Qingshan, so I would lend her a helping hand. I adopted a demeanor of delicate fragility and slowly approached Lu Qingshan, saying, Young Master Lu, you shall take the lead in painting, while I shall add embellishments. How does that sound? Lu Qingshan nodded. That is agreeable. As we busied ourselves with the painting, it was inevitable that our hands would brush against each other. Yet, a full half-hour passed without my touching even the hem of his garment. I finally understood. This fellow was deliberately avoiding me. His expression was calm, his profile strikingly handsome. Seizing the opportunity while he was distracted, I staggered into his embrace. A hard object pressed against my waist. I looked up to find Lu Qingshan had somehow acquired an exceptionally large paintbrush, which he used to support my waist, instructing, Stand properly. I was momentarily speechless. He nearly voiced his displeasure. Keep your distance. Do not hinder my painting. His disdain was unmistakable. I evaded the eyes of the maids and whispered, in a tone only he could hear, Lu, I have been unable to sleep well lately. I raised my brush, feigning weariness. In my dreams, I see only the noble figure of Lu. Lu Qingshan stiffened slightly, pretending not to hear, as he turned to paint a peach tree. I pressed on. The doctor says that one's thoughts during the day manifest in dreams at night. He pursed his lips, maintaining his stoic demeanor, a true top scholar, remarkably unflappable. I continued to provoke. To remedy that strange dream, I clutch your likeness every night as I sleep. I trust you do not mind, young Master Lu. With a sharp sound, Lu Qingshan flung the paintbrush aside, his face flushed with embarrassment and anger. It is finished, he declared, turning away without a backward glance. Nearby, several young gentlemen exchanged pleasantries, saying, Lu, you've worked hard. Look at you. All flushed and sweating from the effort. It must have been quite the challenge. I smirked, raising my gaze to Lu Qingshan's retreating figure. His disdain was for Fang Zishu. Should a marriage occur, they would only irritate each other. If the marriage did not materialize, Lu Qingshan would certainly not consider her. Subsequently, I composed myself and focused on my painting, ultimately presenting my work to the Empress. The Empress sighed in admiration. What a marvelous painting! An inexplicable feeling arose within me. As the banquet drew to a close, I slipped away from Fang Zishu's maid and retrieved a small bag hidden in my sleeve. The unconscious creature within stirred to life. I recalled the snake seller's words. This snake is highly venomous. If fed on the night-blooming jasmine since childhood, it will surely strike true if aimed at someone with the scent of jasmine. The chief minister of the court of judicature had been tirelessly seeking justice for his son's death and would eventually uncover the truth. The Xiong family would undoubtedly not shield me. If I had any other recourse, I would not resort to such desperate measures. Gritting my teeth, I tore open the bag, and a blood-red snake's tongue flicked toward me.
Ah!
The snake lunged at me. Startled and disoriented, I stumbled backward and collided with someone whose presence bore the clean scent of soap. He swiftly seized the serpent by its midsection, applying a firm grip until the venomous creature, thrashing its intertwined golden and black tail, succumbed to death. Lu Qingshan spoke gently. It is dead. I stared at the lifeless snake, a mixture of trepidation and fury welling within me, my teeth clenched in anger. That was my 40 tails. He had killed it with but one hand. Yet, I feared he might catch sight of something he should not. Seizing the opportunity, I tugged at his wide sleeve and said in a delicate tone, I am most terrified of snakes. Please dispose of it quickly. Lu Qingshan regarded me with a dubious gaze, as if contemplating. Now that he's served at the Dali Temple, frequently reviewing case files and interrogating criminals, would he discern the truth? I felt a chill in my heart but maintained my composure, climbing the social ladder with feigned grace. You saved me. You cannot be expecting a life debt to bind me to you, can you? Lu Qingshan tossed the dead serpent into the underbrush, lifting his gaze with disdain as he replied, I am unworthy of such a debt. It was only after Lu Qingshan had completely departed that I replaced my tearful facade with my usual icy demeanor. I produced another cloth pouch containing a similarly venomous snake. The banquet had long since dispersed. The queen's palanquin was at the forefront, with a throng of noble women following her into the palace to burn incense and pay homage as per custom. Suddenly, a cry erupted from the palanquin, followed by the panicked shrieks of the maidservants.
Ah!
A snake! Protect the queen! Oh no, the queen has been bitten! The cacophony of screams surged, and the noble women were thoroughly frightened, terrified that the serpent might leap upon them. I steadied my nerves and lifted my skirt to dash outside. The queen had been bitten, and signs of the venom's onset were already apparent. The toxin acted swiftly. Without hesitation, I began to suck the venom from the queen's wound. The queen, dazed and struggling to keep her eyes open, murmured, Who are you? I am Feng Rui, the eldest daughter of the Xiong residents, I replied, neither obsequious nor overbearing. I am here in place of my sister for the banquet. That night, the tale of the queen's encounter with the snake spread throughout the streets, and news of the Xiong family daughter saving the queen from venomous peril echoed across Luoyang. Everyone spoke of the chancellor's daughter as embodying purity and virtue, daring to exchange her life for another's. When I awoke, I found myself in the small courtyard of the Xiong residence. My devoted maid, Hongdo, was weeping inconsolably. Miss, the second young lady has once again stolen your glory. Feng Zishu, as usual, had taken my place, feigning illness from lingering poison for 2 days to convince others. During my unconsciousness, the matriarch had ordered me cast back to the small courtyard without summoning a physician. I had anticipated this. She indeed wished to silence me. Had I not already taken the antidote, I would have met my demise by now. I gently reassured Hongdo, Do not weep. I am still alive. This girl, small in stature as a child, had been assigned to me by the matriarch, and we had depended on each other ever since. She had been terrified these past few days. Hongdo wiped her tears and hesitantly inquired, Miss, who is Lu Qingshan? You kept murmuring his name while you were unconscious. The copper mirror reflected my incredulous expression, and an unbidden warmth surged within me as I could only respond vaguely. It seems the queen's hunting dog today is named Qingshan. With the surname Lu, Feng Zishu had been thriving of late. Having saved the queen, my father granted her every wish and no longer spoke of Lu Qingshan. Seizing this opportunity, Feng Zishu proclaimed to anyone who would listen, What one does, heaven observes, as long as one harbors goodwill, a favorable outcome is sure to follow. Her words resonated genuinely. The noble women of Luoyang listened in admiration, faces tinged with guilt, for not everyone dares to risk their life to save another. In a matter of days, Fang Zishu's reputation soared, with common folk speaking of her as the chancellor's daughter possessing a heart of compassion. Rumors circulated in the court that Fang Zishu was destined to be the crown princess. Meanwhile, I remained in the small courtyard, listening to Hongdo recount tidings from outside. The little maid was filled with righteous indignation. "Miss, how much have you suffered in the arts of music and literature just to let her bask in the limelight? She has truly wronged you." "I endured hardship for my own sake, never for others," I firmly stated as I closed the door tightly. "No one's suffering is in vain. If it were, it would simply mean the time for reaping rewards had yet to arrive." I recalled my childhood schooling, where Fang Zishu, by nature indolent, knew nothing of music, chess, calligraphy, or painting, while I was diligent and eager to learn, much to the matriarch's chagrin. I knelt before the matriarch, claiming my pursuit of the arts was for Fang Zishu's benefit, so that she might shine in society as a distinguished young lady. The matriarch, drawn to that empty fame, acquiesced. As time passed and my replacements increased, Fang Zishu no longer dared to bully me under the guise of her status as the legitimate daughter. Instead, she treated me with courtesy, begging me to attend banquets on her behalf. Otherwise, I would have faced the same fate as other illegitimate daughters, oppression and a hasty marriage. Hongdo muttered, "That second young lady need not suffer at all, yet she has everything." I chuckled calmly. "The queen just awoke yesterday. What is the rush?" Finally, the queen regained full consciousness. The imperial decree arrived from the palace, and the matriarch, beaming with joy, knelt with Fang Zishu and a throng of noble women. Yet the eunuchs delayed in reading the decree. One eunuch politely inquired, "Madam Fang, has everyone from the Xiang residence gathered?" The 7-year-old legitimate son, unable to remain still from kneeling for so long, cried out, "My second sister has been kneeling here for ages. Why do you not announce the decree?" "Who says this decree is for your second sister?" The eunuch retorted with a mocking tone, rolling his eyes. "Madam Fang, I will not mince words. This decree is for the chancellor's eldest daughter, Fang Rui." The women of the Xiang residence were taken aback. That frail illegitimate daughter, who never leaves the house, has caught the queen's favor? Wasn't it the second young lady who saved the queen? Indeed. Only the second young lady attended the banquet. Fang Zishu, feeling guilty, turned pale upon hearing the eunuch's words, yet she maintained her composure, asking if there had been a misunderstanding. "Misunderstanding? You, a mere subject, dare to question the queen?" The eunuch scoffed. "You are but an interloper." The phrase interloper left Fang Zishu utterly humiliated. She collapsed to the ground, her expression a mix of fury and unwillingness. As I knelt to receive the decree, Fang Zishu looked at me with teary eyes, as if I had wronged her. On the day I absorbed the snake venom, the queen had half been conscious, asking me what I desired. I replied, "I wish only to live." The queen could surely surmise the intrigues of the noble household. Yet I had not anticipated that she would bestow a marriage upon me. The queen granted me to the heir of the Yunyang Marquise, a young man of exceptional character and talent in Luoyang. His name was Chu Zhan, well-versed in poetry since childhood. His parents were devoted to each other. He became a top scholar at 16 and a county magistrate by 20, gradually returning to Luoyang. He was indeed a commendable choice for a husband. The decree felt light in my hand, yet its weight was immense, inscribed with the course of my future. As I rose, I stumbled slightly. The eunuch rushed to steady me. "Oh dear, young lady, do stand tall. You shall soon be the esteemed wife of the heir." After receiving the decree, Fang Zishu confined herself to her chambers. One day, she suddenly appeared in my room, frantically grasping my hand. "You must accompany me to see the queen and tell her she has mistaken the person. It was I who saved her." I scoffed. "Why should I relinquish all good fortune to you?" Fang Zishu vented her humiliation upon me. "You, a mere concubine's offspring, are nothing but a servant in this household. As the legitimate daughter, I have every right to demand your life. Blame your unworthy mother for choosing to be a concubine." She hurled many insults at me, yet I only heard one. "Your mother chose to be a concubine." Summoning all my strength, I struck her across the face. Fang Zishu fell to the ground, disbelief etched on her face as she looked at me, who was usually gentle and submissive. "You wretched girl. How dare you hit me? Did you not often say that all are equal?" I replied, my eyes filled with disdain as I withdrew my hand. You may argue for equality when quarreling with a princess, but how can you invoke the master-servant dynamic in my presence? Feng Zishu covered her face and bitterly cursed. You are insidious and cunning. Had it not been for your interference, how could the Empress have recognized you? She had confined herself to her chamber for several days. And, at last, her wits had returned somewhat. Indeed, second sister, I replied with a smile, without your noble status, how could I have soared to such heights? Infuriated, she engaged me in a scuffle. When our matron arrived, she found the favored Feng Zishu weeping sorrowfully, her eyes ablaze with uncontainable fury. Her voice was sharp and commanding. Feng Zishu, what have I told you since childhood? Your mother is the minister's wife, and you are her legitimate daughter. In this world, one born of lowly stock is destined to endure endless suffering. Why must you compete with her? The life she leads is entirely at our discretion. How can we allow her to tread upon your dignity? Seize this girl who knows no decorum and disregards status. Lock her in the woodshed for 3 days without a drop of water or a morsel of food. Upon hearing this, several guards rushed forward to restrain me, while Feng Zishu, feeling wronged, wiped her tears and managed a pitiful smile. For a fleeting moment, I was lost in thought. Had my mother still been alive, she would never have allowed me to endure such humiliation. Yet, my mother had passed away too soon, and this mother-daughter pair had luxuriated in privilege for far too long, treating the lives of others as mere weeds. I lowered my eyelashes and spoke softly. Madame Feng, do you suppose I uttered on the day I saved the Empress? Madame Feng frowned, suspicion etched upon her face. I sneered. I declared that my stepmother is malicious and delights in tormenting me. Should I meet my demise within the minister's residence one day, it would not be easy for you to escape blame. At this, even our matron's countenance turned ashen as she stepped forward and struck me across the face. What nonsense are you spouting, you little wretch? Wang Nai, give her 30 slaps. I declare. I covered my face and glared fiercely at those surrounding me. Now that I am the Empress's savior and will soon be the future Lady of the Air, should I find myself in hardship, none who have bullied me shall escape unscathed. Several matrons trembled in fear, their expressions troubled as they glanced at their mistress, ultimately refraining from acting. Our matron's lips turned a ghastly shade of blue with rage. I coldly circled around to the pale-faced Feng Zishu. It will soon be impossible to conceal the fact that second sister is a talentless good-for-nothing. Do not let the minister's residence lose face when that truth comes to light. For a decade, Feng Zishu had reveled in the glory of being a celebrated beauty in Luoyang, but now, having fallen from grace, she would surely be the subject of mockery and derision. She immediately burst into tears, her eyes reddened. Mother, I do not want to be laughed at. I will study diligently. Our matron, equally flustered, promptly sent out invitations to seek renowned tutors, evidently fearing the consequences. The minister's residence was in disarray. Meanwhile, I led a tranquil life, tending to flowers and grasses each day. Hongdo, with a sense of pride, relayed the news from outside. The noble ladies are all eager to distance themselves from the second young lady, claiming she is full of lies and hypocrisy, afraid of losing their own reputations. Nowadays, whenever Feng Zishu ventured out, the noble ladies of Luoyang were ever more scathing, mocking her with biting remarks. Our matron, spending lavishly, sought out teachers for Feng Zishu under the auspices of the minister's residence, only to be met with closed doors. Upon learning this, my father was enraged and struck our matron across the face, berating her for having spoiled Feng Zishu. Hongdo remarked, I have never seen the master so furious. The lady, born of noble lineage, has never faced a single grievance since entering the minister's residence. And that slap was enough to make her cry for several days in the courtyard. Enough, I replied with a calm smile, pinching Hongdo's cheek. We shall not engage in kicking someone while they are down. Fleeting triumphs do not equate to lasting success. Such is the nature of this world, where fortunes ebb and flow. Hongdo adorned my hair with a golden hairpin, miss. Today, young Master Chu has invited you out. You must dress beautifully. I smiled lightly. A young master of such stature has surely encountered countless beauties, moreover. I paused. Moreover, if Chu Zhan were a man who is easily swayed by appearances, there would be no need to seek his favor. After a while, the carriage came to a halt, and the driver reported, "Miss, there is an investigation ahead. We cannot pass." I pondered, how long will it take? A familiar voice, firm and resolute, echoed, "If you do not clear the way, this official shall not depart today." This proclamation was not directed at me. Outside, Lu Qingshan, donned in crimson official robes, was accompanied by several junior aides. His rank was modest, yet his demeanor was unwavering. A murder had occurred at the inn. The innkeeper, relying on his connections, refused to cooperate with the investigation, blocking the entrance and throwing a tantrum. As the two men clashed, the innkeeper seized a brick and hurled it at Lu Qingshan. Unfortunately for me, having just disembarked, I was struck directly by the heavy brick, causing me to cry out in pain and collapse to the ground. Desperately, I signaled to my maid. Understanding my cue, she cried out, "My lady has been killed. A life has been lost. Sir, quickly apprehend this criminal." The innkeeper was rendered utterly flustered. Lu Qingshan ordered his men to seize him, and a group of soldiers took the opportunity to storm the inn. I sprang to my feet, my eyes sparkling with mirth as I greeted, "Lu Zhuangyuan." It has been quite some time. Perhaps it was my calling him Lu Zhuangyuan that rendered Lu Qingshan somewhat uneasy. His previously taut posture relaxed as he gestured for a path to be cleared for me. I pointed to a small tear in my clothing and lamented, "Lu Zhuangyuan, I ruined a garment in my attempt to assist you." "Firstly, this official did not ask you to intervene," he replied, lifting his elegantly refined face. "Secondly, the one who struck you was not me. Lastly, I am quite busy. If Miss Fong has nothing further, please do not disturb me while I attend to my duties." Disturb him while he attended to his duties. Truly, a kind deed met with ingratitude. I must have been struck senseless to have dismounted just to see him in distress. But reflecting on it, the entire city was aware that I had switched identities with Fong Zishu. Lu Qingshan would surely know that it was I who had attended the banquet that day. I stepped back into the carriage and asked Hongdo, "If a man were to express to you upon first meeting that he dreams of you day and night, how would you feel?"
Hongdo, perplexed, ultimately retorted,
"Is there truly such a lecherous scoundrel in this world?" I was at a loss for words. What if this person were a woman? A woman could be exceedingly shameless as well, Hongdo timidly replied, but if this person were a young lady, then she would simply be forthright and sincere. I fell silent. I restlessly changed into another outfit, and upon entering the private room, I found Xu Zhan had been waiting for quite some time. He possessed a handsome countenance, exuding an air of noble affluence. Leaning slightly, he asked, "Miss Fong, do you truly wish to marry me? What is it that young Master Chu wishes to convey?" I suppressed my smile, feeling a knot tighten in my chest. I harbor no intention of retracting my engagement. He remained composed. "I have someone I hold dear. Alas, that lady is already married. To put it succinctly, he does not love me and will not genuinely regard me as his wife." I gently set down my cup, feigning nonchalance as I stated, "Young Master Chu, this marriage was decreed by fate. We are both helpless in this regard, yet it is only the Marquis and his lady who welcome such an arrangement. It follows that if it is not me, you shall marry another in due time. If I were merely to occupy the position of young Master's wife, managing the household without performing the rites of marriage, without interfering in your affairs, or concerning myself with that little wife of yours, what do you think?" Chu Zhan's dark eyes narrowed. He rhythmically tapped the teacup, seemingly contemplating, before finally asking, "You truly harbor not a shred of feeling for me?" I replied succinctly, "Upon our first meeting, it would be more accurate to say I am fonder of the title of young Master's wife." Chu Zhan slowly curved his lips into a smile, finally believing my words. I prepared to return home. Yet, to my surprise, I encountered Fong Zishu at the inn. She was being tormented by the noble ladies downstairs. "Oh, is that not the celebrated beauty of Luoyang? Why not join us for some poetry and couplets?" Recently, Fong Zishu had taken to dressing plainly, her hair always adorned with a white jade hairpin, resembling a frail willow swaying in the breeze. With a demeanor of humility, she apologized to the noble ladies. "In the past, my vanity was extreme, leading me to this unfortunate fate. I have received my just deserts. Why do you all persist in holding it against me?" Several noble women, their faces tinged with embarrassment, left awkwardly. As she turned, her gaze fell upon me, and her eyes glistened with a hint of red. "Sister, Seeing me thus must bring you great satisfaction, does it not? A beauty, when feigning weakness, presents a pitiful sight. I smiled. You may be overestimating yourself. At that moment, Fang Zishu's complexion turned a genuine shade of pale. Ever since the disgrace brought upon the Xiang residence, she had transformed from her formerly flamboyant self, engaging in daily rituals of bathing, burning incense, and chanting scriptures, while diligently honing her musical skills. It appeared she was indeed seeking redemption. Recently, her father's anger had subsided, and he continued to dote on her. Hongdo, ever fond of eavesdropping, shared with me, "The master is preparing to arrange a marriage for the second young lady." "Whose son is it?" I inquired. With a gleeful grin, Hongdo replied, "It is the scholar she despises most, the top scholar. The master said if she finds his family too poor, he will provide her with a larger dowry." A tremor ran through me, and I pricked my finger on an embroidered needle, the pain nearly bringing tears to my eyes. My father indeed had a shrewd plan for Fang Zishu. Lu Qingshan hailed from a humble lineage, yet he was reliable.
Now,
Having tackled the most challenging cases in the Dali Temple, he had begun to shine in just half a year, destined to ascend the ranks in the future. If Fang Zishu were to marry him, she would be spared the ire of a mother-in-law, as she alone would hold sway in her household. Moreover, Lu Qingshan was not like the sons of nobility, bearing an air of superiority. Even if Fang Zishu were to act up, he would likely tolerate her. Parents love their children with foresight. My father's affection for Fang Zishu was no different. Furthermore, in recent days, he had frequently invited Lu Qingshan to our home. His intentions to court him were evident to all. Today, Lu Qingshan was a guest at the Lu residence. I felt restless and exclaimed, "Fang Zishu is a calamity. She must not be allowed to marry." Hongdo nodded. "Miss, did you not say you would rather dismantle a temple than ruin a marriage?" "I intend to ruin his engagement," I declared, lifting my skirts to cross the threshold. Who does he think he is? He had already crushed my hopes for 40 taels. Today was a day of rest. Lu Qingshan was engaged in a game with my father in the study. Standing in the small pavilion, I finally spotted two figures at the end of the path. Lu Qingshan walked ahead, clad in his everyday attire, his figure tall and upright. A servant followed closely behind, urging, "Young master, you have met the second young lady of the Xiang residence today. She is dignified and virtuous, and her words towards you are quite respectful. With a father-in-law as esteemed as Prime Minister Fang, your career will undoubtedly flourish. Moreover, you are handsome, and the second young lady is charming. You truly make a perfect match." Lu Qingshan appeared somewhat absent-minded, responding, "Indeed." The word struck my ears harshly. In a fit of frustration, I caught sight of a large water vat nearby, originally meant for watering flowers. I seized a wooden ladle and splashed its contents with force. The two passing figures were instantly drenched, resembling drowned rats. When Lu Qingshan looked up, his eyes flashed with irritation. I feigned innocence, my gaze wide and unassuming. "Oh, Scholar Lu, why are you down there?" The man, unable to vent his anger, was about to turn and leave, but I stepped forward with a playful smile. Blocking his path, Lu Qingshan was forced to step back, donning an expression reminiscent of a coffin. "Move aside. I had no intention of watering flowers and accidentally drenched you both," I said, twisting my embroidered handkerchief in my hands, feigning surprise and fear. If my father were to find out, I would surely be punished. "I implore you both to come with me to change." Lu Qingshan scoffed, enunciating each word, "No need." I softened my tone, persisting, and clung to him tightly. The servant, momentarily swayed by my plight, interjected, "Young master, the young lady means no harm. Besides, it would be inappropriate for her to leave the house in soaked clothes." Lu Qingshan's demeanor was as sharp as a blade. "How can I be certain she won't mock me?"
mock.
I furrowed my brow. When had I ever mocked him? "I swear by heaven," I raised 2 fingers. My gaze resolute. "If I mock you, may my father be struck by lightning and become childless." After a moment's contemplation, Lu Qingshan relented. "Lead the way." As I turned, a glimmer of triumph flashed in my eyes, and I exchanged a knowing glance with Hongdo. The servant was dismissed. I led Lu Qingshan to a secluded courtyard. Just as he stepped inside, I swiftly locked the door behind him. Lu Qingshan stiffened, a flicker of anger flashing in his dark eyes as he realized he had been deceived. With a smile, I inquired, Arue is genuinely curious about what you discussed with my father. His gaze fell to his polished boots, no comment. His words were curt and unyielding, much to my displeasure. Then, what do you think of me in your eyes? I pressed, inching closer. If you don't speak, I shall strip you of your dignity. You dare. Lu Qingshan attempted to push me away, yet found himself at a loss as to where to place his hands, allowing the anger in his dark eyes to simmer. If you refuse to speak, I shall loosen your belt. I continued to press, but his lips remained sealed. Defeated. I sighed. Very well, I am not one to be overly aggressive. He remained silent, lips pursed. You must have heard the saying, birds of a feather flock together. Whoever I am behind the scenes, Fang Zishu is no different. We are indeed akin. If you marry her, your household will know no peace. And you shall become childless. I spoke until my throat was dry. Looking up, I met Lu Qingshan's penetrating gaze. His irises were strikingly light, and after a moment of stunned silence, he replied, I grew anxious. Did he truly comprehend my words? Perhaps it was my grip on his waist that prompted him to speak again, his tone softening slightly. I will not marry her. May I release my belt now? Finally, he understood, and with an expression akin to interrogating a suspect, he added, What does my tumultuous home life have to do with you? At that moment, Lu Qingshan was unnervingly calm and perceptive, leaving me feeling exposed and embarrassed. I hesitated, carefully retorting, You're a good person. Good people deserve a good fate. Fang Zishu is unworthy of you. Lu Qingshan departed. Raising my head, I found Hong Do staring at me quizzically. She stammered, Miss, your wedding date with the young master is approaching. We should refrain from interacting with other men, lest the young master become angry. I gently furrowed my brow, choosing not to respond. Amidst the absurdity, there was a tinge of sorrow that was almost imperceptible. A man may take multiple wives, yet women are always held to a harsher standard. In the future, as I preside over the household, how many Lu Qingshans will I encounter in my lifetime? From now on, there will be none. Love is, in essence, the most worthless yet elusive treasure in this world, and I am but one among the many who remain unfulfilled. Since that day, Lu Qingshan has not appeared at the Prime Minister's residence again. As June approached, my mother prepared my wedding gown, which was a full inch too large. I chose not to address it, instead seeking an audience with my father. Father, I will soon be wed and wish to pay respects to my mother. Years ago, my mother died tragically, her remains lost. Yet I knew she had been hidden away by this very man. In the past, my lowly status prevented me from openly expressing my affection for my deceased mother. But I had harbored it in my heart for years, waiting for this moment. My father, seated with great authority, spoke in a steady voice. When Yun passed, I was not in the residence. Her body was carelessly disposed of long ago, and I know not where it lies. Let the past remain in the past. The past. Indeed. Let him leave it there. My hands trembled slightly against the ground. Father's abandonment of mother and child is a fact. Why do you believe all matters can fade away with her death? Before me, my father, clad in deep purple official robes, erupted in anger. Throwing down a brush with a wolf hair tip. Silence. I sprang to my feet, tears brimming as I questioned. Is it because my mother was of lowly status that you feel shame when others mention her? My father, once merely a scholar in a humble cottage, forsook her for the sake of his career. This was your choice. Yet today, you occupy a lofty position, commanding the fear and respect of others. With no one left to sway your will, you have attained the immense power that stands above the multitude, yet my mother lies beneath the earth, burdened with the disgrace of being a concubine. What use is such power if it cannot safeguard those we love? You dare not allow her to pay her respects, fearing she would discover that you cannot even care for her daughter? Clad in deep crimson, he turned his back to me, his steps faltering. I call you father because my mother spoke only of your virtues, never your faults. I lifted my gaze. In her lifetime, she never wronged you, nor did she harbor resentment. Behind the screen, his towering figure seemed to sag under a weight of despair. His voice was weary. Did she truly never blame me? Perhaps he recalled the 10-mile countryside, the lotus ponds, the water town of Jiangnan. My mother was his childhood sweetheart. He was the learned youth of 10 villages, reaching marriageable age. Their parents arranged their union. Newlywed, they faced the envy of the village butcher, who first slaughtered his parents, then, taking advantage of his helplessness, violated his wife nightly before his eyes. Reporting to the authorities yielded no result. In desperation, he journeyed to Luoyang to take the imperial examination, promising my mother, Yun, wait for me. When I attain an official title, I shall ensure that wretch pays for his deeds, granting you a life of luxury and freedom from worry. My mother awaited him in the village, yet he never returned. One year, when the lotus bloomed in summer, a great fire engulfed the butcher's house. Fragments of charred bones were discovered within, and the butcher was never seen again. From that day forth, my mother and I survived by selling embroidery and making tofu. Villagers often called me a wild seed. I wept and asked her, "Mother, whose child am I?" She would embrace me, tenderly stroking my head. "You are my child." Countless embroiderers graced the noble houses, yet none could replicate the exquisite handkerchiefs my mother crafted. For decades, I toiled day in and day out, endeavoring to recreate a piece akin to hers. Yet, none could match the artistry of the departed. My father's face was veiled in confusion as he slumped before the writing desk, trembling lips whispering, "She truly never resented me?" I moved around the screen. "What purpose does resentment serve?" I helped him rise. "The one who caused her demise was not you. You simply remained unaware of the truth behind her death." "The truth?" He paused, eyes gleaming with crimson, clutching my garment. "Wasn't Yun murdered by the guards of the estate, mistaken for a beggar?" I wiped the tears from my eyes. "Father, you are burdened with affairs, and the household is governed by the mistress. After she humiliated my mother, she forced her to collide with a post, leading to her death, and concealed the truth thereafter, while I was but a child. That wicked woman." Hatred flickered in my father's eyes. "Very well, go pay homage to your mother." In that moment, a shadow crossed my gaze, recalling the day my mother passed decades ago. That day, she had brought me to the estate to acknowledge our kinship. Fortuitously, when my father was absent, the mistress, a daughter of nobility, deliberately tormented us, declaring, "In this world, there can be no perfect resolution. One must remain while the other departs." My mother, though gentle, possessed a deep understanding. She believed her death would not trouble the man she loved, never considering how a child without a mother could survive. My mother's ashes lay hidden in the study's secret chamber. I joyfully opened the box, only to find the bones turned to dust. I pressed my face against the remains, tears streaming. "Mother, I am to be wed. Yet the wedding gown is ill-fitting, and the match is not with one I cherish. But soon, I shall avenge you." As I stepped out of the study, I had already dried my tears. My father remained, standing before my mother's portrait. Days later, several concubines entered the estate in quick succession. The mistress was incensed, confronting my father with fury. "Fong Lin, you vowed to love only me in this lifetime, swearing never to take another concubine." My father replied coolly, "A man is entitled to multiple wives. You are simply jealous." The mistress, upon hearing this, stumbled back to her chamber in tears, vowing that if he did not expel those women, he should not expect to see her again. She thought this uproar would lead him to appease her as he had countless times before. Yet she forgot that my father was no longer the impoverished scholar he once was, especially now that he knew the truth behind his wife's death. For half a month, my father not only refrained from consoling her, but instead spent his nights in the company of those concubines. The usually composed mistress was thrown into turmoil. In a fit of rage, she executed one of the concubines merely for uttering words she found displeasing. I casually inquired, "What did the concubine say?" She remarked that the master is utterly enchanted by her, forgetting the devotion of his wife. Hong Do sighed. Alas, that concubine was already a month pregnant. I had anticipated this, pondering a lifetime is far too long. A lifetime my mother could not attain. What right did she have to it? Long ago, the noble daughter had chosen to forsake wealth and splendor to share a modest life with the scholar, a fact that stirred much gossip. My father, grateful for her noble lineage, had refrained from taking concubines for many years, and all the children in the household were hers. For years, they shared mutual affection, a harmonious partnership admired by many. Everyone claimed the noblewoman had made a splendid match. Yet, in truth, there is no such thing as a lifetime. Only the present exists. Even the exalted noblewoman could, one day, succumb to fury like a commoner. After the death of the pregnant concubine, my father erupted in rage, storming into the mistress's quarters, slapping her and ordering her confinement. The mistress, unyielding, wept, "You climbed to your position as prime minister on the back of the duke's house. Now you wish me dead to pursue another?" My father's forehead throbbed with fury as he laughed maniacally. "I never knew you were so vicious, capable of discarding a living soul with such ease. Wasn't he enforced to her end by you as well?" He cared not for the dead concubine. What troubled him was how his cherished companion had revealed her true, malevolent nature, no longer the innocent, kind noblewoman she once was. The mistress's complexion turned pale, her lips trembling. "What do you have to do with that woman? She was beaten to death by the guards. I was unaware of any such matter." My father's eyes blazed with crimson fury as he let out a pained roar, shoving her to the ground. "You dare lie." The following day, the mistress, tear-streaked, received a divorce decree and was expelled from the estate, sending shockwaves through Luoyang. The townsfolk whispered in astonishment, "The prime minister has cast aside his wife for a concubine." Once, he had a childhood sweetheart he wished to elevate to the status of wife, but the prime minister's wife would not allow it. Who would have thought? A decade later, the prime minister's wife would fall to an 18-year-old concubine? I sat veiled at the banquet. This was merely a divorce. She would return to the duke's estate, continuing her life of privilege. Yet her children could not. For my father had taken another wife. This new spouse, a widow of the current emperor, upon learning of his divorce, sought the emperor's favor to marry him. The princess was merely 25, still youthful. She was intolerant of any imperfections, especially regarding the prime minister's children, who were often the targets of her impatience and reprimands. My father bore little affection for her. The princess vented her frustrations on his children, and I sent word of this to the mistress at the duke's estate. That night, the matriarch anxiously stood outside the Xiang residence, pleading to be allowed a glimpse of her child. To her dismay, the princess ordered her to be obstructed at the gates, and cruelly, from behind a wall, she chastised the matriarch's 7-year-old son. The child's cries echoed through the night as he cried out, "Mother, please stop." Sunner knows he is wrong. Heartbroken and exhausted, she wept outside, begging, "Princess, he is but a child. I implore you, spare him. If there is any grievance, let it be directed at me." I stood at the entrance, witnessing this once exalted woman humbly beseeching the princess. Upon seeing me, she seemed to gather her resolve and crawled toward me. With a servile expression, she implored, "Arue, as the eldest sister, could you, for the sake of the years I have cared for you, look after your younger siblings?" I smiled brightly, kicking her away. "Are you still unaware? It is I who has reminded the princess of the harmonious past between you and my father, which has engendered her hatred toward you." With that, I turned and returned to the Xiang residence, listening to the anguished pleas of that woman, feeling a profound sense of vengeance fulfilled. 10 years prior, she had wielded her power and status to coerce me, driving my mother to her death. My mother, too, had defended her child fiercely, crying out in desperation. Alas, the world is rife with retribution. It is the law of cause and effect. Had she not taken my mother as husband, she would have lived a life of luxury without worry. As Redbean tugged at my sleeve for the 8th time, I grew somewhat impatient. She whispered, "Miss, the carriage of Scholar Lu is also at the gates of the Xiang residence. Please refrain from speaking too much." I turned stiffly and, indeed, a plain azure carriage was parked not far off, the wind lifting the curtains to reveal a glimpse of a white jade jaw beneath a blue robe. Today, my father had invited numerous officials. He was likely among them. Noticing my silence, Redbean reassured me that from a distance, I should not be overheard. And Scholar Lu would not give it much thought. "Let him think what he pleases," I replied, not pausing my steps. I have never claimed to be virtuous. Absolute goodness exists only among the powerful. For the common folk in this world, being kind only invites exploitation, as exemplified by my mother and me. Since the matriarch's disgrace, Fangji's status had plummeted, and even my father seldom visited her. She shut herself away, spending her days in seclusion to cultivate her character. Red Bean, ever vigilant, finally gleaned some information. She said Fang Ji would scale the wall every evening after dusk. I chose a day to follow her. Red Bean insisted, Miss. I wish to go with you. I brushed her off. Return and disguise yourself as me. Do not let anyone discover you. I trailed Fang Ji, who paused at a broken bridge. Recently, the Lantern Festival was being held in Luoyang, and Fang Ji, veiled, mingled among the crowd, wrapping her arms around a young man's waist, playfully saying, I won the bet. I knew you would come. You, always knowing how to manipulate me. The man retorted with a chuckle as they disappeared hand in hand into the throng. I stood frozen, suddenly recalling what Red Bean had told me, that the heir of the Chu family had a flirtatious girl outside. This girl, fully aware that I was betrothed to the heir, still sent him sour plum soup in the sweltering summer and sought talismans for him at the temple, even gambling over the wall. Little did I realize that this noble lady was my own younger sister, who had always held herself above, insisting on marrying only into the highest echelons of society. I was momentarily dazed. Make way. Make way. A bullock cart is coming. As I looked up, a bullock cart bore down on me, and the driver knocked me to the ground before fleeing in the chaos. Pain shot through my leg, and as I attempted to rise, I collapsed once more. A hand reached out to me. Long and clean, Scholar Lu hurried toward me through the crowd, his expression tense. Why did you not move? My heart was tumultuous as my gaze fell upon the girl trailing behind him, her enthusiasm waning as she held a lantern, while Scholar Lu also grasped a lantern in his hand. They had come together to release lanterns and fortuitously encountered me. I turned my face away in embarrassment, rejecting his offered hand. Scholar Lu, we are not well acquainted. After years of studying the classics, do you not understand the boundaries between men and women? The atmosphere grew frigid. The girl beside him urged, truly ungrateful. Scholar Lu, let us leave. Scholar Lu's lips tightened, and after speaking briefly with the girl, she turned away in dissatisfaction. His eyes softened, unlike his usual demeanor, as he pressed down on my leg. Injuries know no gender. You may despise me, but let's set that aside for now. He was accustomed to treating injuries at the Dali Temple. Perhaps he had encountered fractures before. Does it hurt? He asked. And I frowned deeply, yet unaccountably felt the sting of tears. Since my mother's passing, no one had cared about my scrapes or bruises, nor whether I was in pain. He meticulously set my bones. When he looked up, he saw the tears streaming down my face, and his expression faltered. It will hurt for a moment longer. I cannot endure it, I whispered, leaning closer. A kiss from you, and I shall feel no pain. Scholar Lu froze, a flicker of alarm crossing his fair features. What? I said. I gazed at him with wide, innocent eyes. If you are gentle, I will not hurt. The lantern at his feet was suddenly toppled by the wind, spilling oil everywhere. Scholar Lu's companion returned with a physician, who shook his head, sighing, Sir, you've already tended to her. What more do you require of me? Scholar Lu remained silent, handing over the fee. His demeanor reverted to its usual indifference as he stated, I will have someone go to the Xiang residence to inform them to fetch you. I lowered my head. I slipped out secretly. Then I shall escort you. Scholar Lu addressed the girl beside him. Rui, you may return first. Scholar Lu. The girl was nearly in tears. Every time you reject me. Today I finally have a moment to step out, and she is of no consequence. I wiped away my tears gently, saying sweetly, Scholar Lu, I do not wish to cause you any trouble. You should accompany this lady to release lanterns. My leg is already fine. I can walk back on my own. With that, I forced myself to stand, but inadvertently toppled toward Scholar Lu. He caught me, concern etched on his face. No, I must take you back first. The girl stormed off in frustration. Upon returning to the Xiang residence, I feigned a light-hearted demeanor, yet finally, Scholar Lu raised his eyelids slightly. Stop pretending. I know you can walk. I offered an awkward smile. Ah, it seems so. A hint of discomfort crossed his typically calm face as he added, That girl just now is the cousin of the Minister of Justice. I would not marry her. Who cares whom you marry? I concealed my delight. You do not appear to favor her. The two of us fell into silence. Ultimately, I was the first to turn away, and after taking a few steps, I struggled to suppress the urge to look back. for I knew he was watching me. As soon as I returned to the Xiang residence, Fang Ji came back as well. Second sister, where have you been? I sat waiting for her in her courtyard, gently stroking the warm jade bracelet on my wrist. A few days ago, I visited the wife of the Marquis, and she gifted me this bracelet. Please take a look. Fang Ji, impatient, sought to dismiss me. She glanced at the bracelet. How trivial. A mere bracelet has swayed you. I replied wistfully. This was bestowed upon the Chu family by the Empress when they were ennobled, passed down through generations. I am the third to inherit it. Fang Ji's lips turned pale. What are you implying? When my fiancé was 16, he had a beloved, but due to my mother's disdain for her lack of talent, they severed ties. I feigned concern. Scholar Chu even left Luoyang, serving as a county magistrate in a remote area for several years. Tell me, if the Marquis's wife finds me lacking, how could I ever marry into their family? In contemporary times, the lady of the Marquis's residence emerges from a distinguished family steeped in literary tradition. She has proclaimed, "My son shall not wed a talentless individual." The object of Chu Zhan's affections, though somewhat lacking in intellect, was thwarted by his mother, leading to their separation. Upon hearing this tale, Fang Zishu's complexion turned pale, and she murmured to herself, "Surely, the Marquis's lady cannot be of such character." I sighed with concern. Fortunately, I have devoted myself to diligent study since childhood. My mastery of music, chess, calligraphy, and painting has not been in vain, and I can engage in conversation with my mother-in-law. Fang Zishu's face blanched further. In a flurry, she concocted an excuse to expel me from the courtyard. A month later, I learned that Fang Zishu had been plagued by lethargy and poor appetite. She suddenly appeared before me, exclaiming, "Sister, your good fortune has come to an end." I feigned curiosity. "Oh? Young Master Chu has agreed to petition the Empress to annul your betrothal," she declared, her eyes sparkling with delight. "Fang Rue, you are not destined for this." Anger surged within me. "Fang Zishu, you are despicable. Fate is in one's own hands. I pursue my happiness and freedom. What is wrong with that?" Fang Zishu retorted with conviction. "Blame only yourself for your lofty aspirations and fragile fate. You were meant to marry into a humble household, and it is unfortunate that you have fallen so low." Days later, whispers circulated that the heir of the Chu family had personally sought the Empress's counsel, and she had expressed her intention to withdraw from the matter. On a day of torrential rain, I held a paper umbrella and sought out my father. "Father, I have resolved to marry Chu Zhan. Please do not annul the engagement. I had committed no wrongdoing." The Marquis's residence's refusal to consent to the annulment did not negate Chu's unilateral decision. My father invited me into his study and sighed. "This marriage must be called off. Chu Zhan has a beloved, and marrying him may lead to your suffering." I have no choice. I knelt before him, as a concubine's daughter. If I am rejected, my future will be even bleaker. My father remained silent for a moment. Turning away, he spoke with resolve. "I will find you a worthy husband in the future. My actions are for your own good." "Father, are you truly acting in my best interest or for Fang Zishu's?" I questioned, my eyes reddening as I tugged at his official robes. Did my younger sister and young Master Chu have a secret bond before their betrothal? My father said nothing, tacitly acknowledging the truth. After a long pause, he added, "I know this is Fang Zishu's fault, but the damage has been done. Do not dwell on it further. If you are unwilling to relent, when you marry, I will ensure you receive the 81 bridal gifts promised to you, allowing you to leave in splendor. The rain is heavy. You should return." I trembled as I knelt before the study door. Raindrops cascaded from the eaves, splattering upon me. Tears in my eyes. I implored him, "Father, am I not your child? Why must I always yield to my sister?" He did not answer but ordered my departure, revealing his intention to protect Fang Zishu. He had already instructed others to nullify the alliance between our families, and the betrothal gifts from the Chu family had been returned in full. It seemed he had also conspired with the Chu family regarding Fang Zishu's marriage to Chu Zhan. As all this unfolded, I stubbornly knelt before the study, hoping for a turn of fate. Hongdo, feeling my distress, wiped the tears from my face and consoled me. "The master has said that if the second young lady marries, to teach her a lesson, her dowry will be empty. Perhaps you should find some solace in that." I shook my head. Without reclaiming the justice that belonged to me, how could I find joy? My mother was, and I too am.
Today,
I kneel here not before my high-ranking father, but before the memory of my mother, buried deep within this study. From this day forth, Arue can no longer be a good person. Please forgive me, Arue. The rain fell gently upon me. Suddenly, a paper umbrella was held over my head, and the figure of a man clad in azure appeared, his features strikingly handsome, his dark eyes reflecting a complex emotion towards me.
Lu Qingshan.
I caught sight of Hongdo not far off. She pursed her lips. Miss, I cannot persuade you. I must trouble Scholar Lu instead. Lu Qingshan, who typically refrained from meddling in others' affairs, had come to the Marquis's residence today. Perhaps Hongdo had shared something with him. I struggled to rise, but collapsed into his embrace. He steadied me by the waist. That day, you advised me against marrying Fang Zishu. Was it merely because I am a good person? My worries had overwhelmed me, and I fainted. Everything that transpired today had been orchestrated in my mind, except for Lu Qingshan, who was an unexpected variable. Fang Zishu was with child. Their wedding was set for early next month. Perhaps to preserve the dignity of both the Marquis and the Prime Minister's residences, they sacrificed my reputation.
Now,
The entirety of Luoyang whispered that the Marquis had annulled the engagement due to my supposed affliction, thus exchanging me for Fang Zishu. My father, feeling guilty, had sought several suitable families for me, but each proposal was met with rejection. I set down my embroidery, finding the situation laughable. Whether it was a promise made to my mother or to me, he had failed to fulfill any of them. Suddenly, Hongdo appeared with a young servant, exclaiming, Miss, someone has come to propose. The lady of that household is currently being entertained by the mistress. A lengthy dowry was displayed outside the Prime Minister's residence, a sight not unlike the day of Chu Zhan's proposal. The Marquise lady herself had come. With a mix of guilt and nervousness, she said, I have come to propose on behalf of my family. My husband has a sister who is married far away and has a son named Lu Qingshan, who currently serves in the Dali Temple. He has requested to wed your eldest daughter. So, it was Lu Qingshan who had come. All of Luoyang knew that Lu Qingshan hailed from Jinling, his family modest, surviving on the sale of calligraphy and paintings. It was unexpected to learn that his mother was once the legitimate third daughter of the Marquis' family, who eloped with his father, severing ties with the Marquis. Lu Qingshan's mother passed away when he was merely 3 years old. He had lived with his father since, never harboring aspirations of climbing the social ladder.
now,
He had lowered himself to seek the Marquis' lady's hand in marriage, utilizing the dowry that had been prepared for his mother, simply to give me a semblance of dignity. Amidst the chorus of congratulations, I stood, aware of the insincerity around me, yet I felt a glimmer of hope that perhaps I could marry the person I cherished. I approached my father, my gaze resolute. I have long since forgiven you, father. I only hope that on the day of my marriage, I will receive the 81 bridal gifts you promised. The Lu family's fortunes were meager. This was the only way I could assist him. Henceforth, I would have to rely on my own efforts to reclaim my dignity. On the 6th day of the 8th month, a propitious day for marriage, I and Fang Zishu were wed simultaneously. Upon learning of my 81 bridal gifts, she was poised to throw a tantrum. Soon after, the wet nurse hesitantly informed her, Second young lady, our 81 bridal gifts consist entirely of cotton. She became furious, inadvertently risking her pregnancy. That day, her marriage was rushed, and her bridal palanquin was taken to the opulent East Alley, where high-ranking officials resided. In contrast, my palanquin was carried into a humble alley, into a modest courtyard bustling with joy. As an elderly woman helped me disembark, she remarked, to make it livelier, many officials were invited, yet many did not attend. Hence, we have invited some common folk to share in the joy. Today, the Marquis' household also celebrated a wedding, with many dignitaries attending to support the Chu family. I gripped the red silk tighter, softly stating, It matters not. I truly appreciate all of this. Even my husband is someone I admire. As I and Lu Qingshan exchanged vows, he carried me into the bridal chamber, clearing away the peanuts and red dates scattered across the bed. Perhaps fearing they would discomfort me, he gently instructed, I shall see the guests off. If you are hungry, have some pastries, and if you are tired, rest. Before he could finish, I wrapped my arms around his neck, whispering sweetly, "Husband, drink less wine and return early." He allowed me to embrace him for a moment before turning to leave, the sounds of laughter subsiding by the time of the dog hour. After dismissing the guests, Lu Qingshan re-entered the room, clad in splendid red wedding attire, his visage akin to a jade crown, reminiscent of the first day I beheld him during the scholars' procession. The red candles flickered by the window. I lowered my gaze upon the man, half squatting on the ground. He gently removed my shoes and immersed my feet in a basin, meticulously washing them, and with a hint of regret remarked, "I live alone and have no one to attend to you. Tomorrow I shall seek out a few maids to serve you." The once notorious and stern official of the Dali Temple, known for his cold demeanor, revealed a tender and considerate side. I arched my brows, playfully pulling him onto the bed, teasing, "It's not as if I require someone to attend to me. Why are you suddenly so accommodating today?" Displaying displeasure is merely for the sake of others. Lu Qingshan kissed my eyelids, pressing my waist down onto the bed, layer by layer unveiling me. "It is not directed at my wife." The flickering red candles cast a warm glow, sealing the room from the outside clamor, leaving only the hushed, suppressed breaths and the continuous soft moans. Lu Qingshan seemed like an insatiable wild dog, and I, vexed, curled myself in the blankets, retreating to the corner, threatening, "If you come any closer, I shall ignore you tomorrow." The following day, with no parents to honor with tea, we slept until the sun was high in the sky. Only an old maid and Hongdo were tidying up the courtyard. Upon waking, I saw Lu Qingshan with his dark eyes, holding a bowl of nourishing soup to feed me. "Drink some soup first. The kitchen is preparing porridge." Despite being newlywed, he need not attend to official duties, yet he still had to visit the Dali Temple today. After Lu Qingshan departed, Hongdo sighed sadly, "Madam, the master tends to everything personally. What use am I in the courtyard?" I merely smiled. On the second day, the Chu family sent someone to invite Lu Qingshan and me to a feast, perhaps recalling the incident of my fallout with Chu Zhan. Lu Qingshan inquired, "Are you feeling better? If you do not wish to attend, it is perfectly fine to rest at home." "Since it is a family banquet, we must go," I replied. My cheeks flushed. "Moreover, it is your uncle's household." Lu Qingshan typically maintained a low profile, had it not been for the engagement proposal. Few would know he was the cousin of the Marquis. On the second day of our marriage, news spread that Chu Zhan had not returned home on his wedding night, as his beloved had fallen ill, leading Fang Zixuan to create quite a scene, unable to call him back. The Marquis and his wife felt a sense of guilt. Thus, as Lu Qingshan and I entered the Marquis's residence, we overheard the Marquis's wife expressing concern for Fang Zixuan. "Zixuan, Zhan's temperament is fickle. Do not take it to heart. Once the child is born, he will surely settle down." Only then did Fang Zixuan relent. "Mother, will there be guests today? Will my husband return?" It was not until Lu Qingshan and I entered hand in hand that Fang Zixuan gazed at us in shock, and the Marquis's wife warmly greeted, "Qingshan, Arue. Do wait a moment. Zhan will return shortly." I was already acquainted with the Marquis's wife, who took a liking to me. I cast a gentle glance at Fang Zixuan. "Sister, your complexion does not look well. You ought to rest properly." "I am perfectly fine," Fang Zixuan retorted with a sulky expression. "No need for your feigned concern." Lu Qingshan maintained an impassive facade, yet tightened his grip on my hand, coldly laughing. "Sister-in-law, my Arue cares for you. Why must you target her?" I interjected. "Sister speaks candidly. She is the same at home. It is of no consequence." Fang Zixuan had always been straightforward. Previously, she was the Prime Minister's legitimate daughter, with a celestial beauty and the reputation of a renowned maiden in Luoyang, known for her forthrightness. To speak bluntly, she was rather oblivious to social cues. The Marquis's expression grew increasingly impatient, weary of attending to Fang Zixuan, especially since Lu Qingshan was the son of his long-lost sister, naturally more significant. Seizing the moment, the Marquis's wife engaged the female guests in conversation, her gaze falling upon my belly, inquiring, "Arue, you and Qingshan should hasten things. Next year, you will surely have a plump baby." My face flushed with embarrassment. Lu Qingshan looked down at me and replied to the Marquis's wife, "Aunt, Arue is only 16, and her body has not matured fully. We shall consider this matter in a few years." I was taken aback. Lu Qingshan was indeed different from others. Fang Zishuan abruptly laughed, her clear voice resonating throughout the room. Sister, you are not hiding the fact that you cannot bear children, are you? The Marquis's wife tensed, demanding, what is the meaning of this? I parted my lips, wishing to recount the incident of the year I first came to Guishui and fished for a bracelet in the pond, but with so many eyes upon me, I could utter not a word. For a woman unable to conceive, it is a sin, a helpless sense of torment piercing my heart. Our Rue has long confided in me about her frail constitution and the difficulty in conceiving. Lu Qingshan's gaze, sharp as a knife, fell upon Fang Zishuan. Coming to my defense, if we have no children in the future, I shall care for her alone. I find it quite agreeable. My eyes welled with tears. An overwhelming urge to flee surged within me. Just then, Chu Zhan returned, cradling an unconscious woman in his arms. She was his beloved, draped in white. Her appearance pure and innocent, utterly unrecognizable as a married woman. Madame Chu was furious. Chu Zhan, what are you doing? Mother Linger is ill, and her family neglects her well-being. She has nowhere to go. Chu Zhan knelt, speaking earnestly. I wish to bring her to the Marquis's residence. Fang Zishuan stood amidst the crowd, tears brimming as she watched the scene unfold. Suddenly, she clutched her belly, her complexion twisted in agony, collapsing to the ground. Her dress stained with blood. She had miscarried. The Marquis's household descended into chaos, and the Marquis's wife implored me, Arue, you are her sister. Please go inside and keep her company. It will ease her suffering. I nodded. This child had been subjected to much distress, and today a shock proved fatal. Upon learning of the news, Chu Zhan's expression remained impassive, even coldly stating, this child was merely a result of her imitating Linger, seducing me to drug her. It was then I recalled Fang Zishuan had long favored a white jade hairpin, always dressed in plain garments, her smile as pure as a celestial being descended to earth. She believed she had skillfully captured Chu Zhan's heart, but in truth, she was merely a shadow of Lin Linger. When Fang Zishuan awakened, Chu Zhan remained vigil at Linger's bedside, not casting a glance in her direction. She could only vent her anger over losing her child upon me. Hurling a jade rabbit figurine, what are you doing here, you wretched woman? Is it not enough that you harmed my mother, but now you must bring me misfortune? With a face of pity, I softly replied, I have long warned you. Taking a life comes with a price, yet you chose to ignore me. This is your retribution. Do you think Linger fainted from a sudden illness on her wedding night? Fang Zishuan's demeanor shifted as she calmed. Why? I smirked. Her husband is the sole heir of the Dali Temple's minister. You are responsible for his death. She must harbor deep resentment towards you. On their wedding night, I had someone inform her that you were the cause of her husband's demise. The Lin family girl had cherished the minister's son. They had been married for several years, deeply in love. Thus, for years, Chu Zhan preferred to serve as a county magistrate in a remote area rather than return to Luoyang to witness their harmonious union. There is a reason for every grievance. Within the Marquis's residence, for Fang Zishuan, one Lin Linger was more than enough punishment. Fang Zishuan suddenly realized, trembling, you malicious woman. You intentionally harmed me, leading me to marry Chu Zhan and leap into this inferno. I calmly retorted, is this not the happiness and freedom you claim to pursue? In that moment, Fang Zishuan's face turned pale as snow, her eyes reflecting confusion and helplessness. Perhaps she had lived a life of ease, being the prime minister's legitimate daughter, cherished by her parents, a life that epitomized happiness and freedom. Yet, she recklessly squandered it. Lu Qingshan and I returned to our abode. The moonlight was boundless as I held onto Lu Qingshan's hand, riding through the quiet streets in our modest carriage back to our humble courtyard. Such tranquil days stretched on for many years. In the blink of an eye, over a decade has passed. When I ascended to the esteemed status of a first-ranked noblewoman, I was already the mother of 2 children, a 7-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter. As my carriage traversed the streets, onlookers recognized my elevated station and hastily made way. Yet, none were aware that I, too, was once a downtrodden illegitimate daughter, and that my husband, now a prime minister, hailed from humble beginnings in his white garments. Over the course of a decade, Lu Qingshan and I have steadfastly supported one another to reach this point. the hatred nestled within my heart, akin to my mother's white bones, has perished alongside those who tormented her. The daughter of the Duke's household, who once usurped my mother's husband, soon succumbed to despair after being cast aside, lying in her sickbed and murmuring in her final moments for the princess to spare her children. In the 3rd year following my marriage, my father met his demise amidst the power struggles of the crown prince's faction. At that time, Lu Qingshan held me close. Fearing my sorrow, I merely shook my head, declaring, I am but a child with only my mother. My father had never graced my life with his presence. Furthermore, my once glorious sister, who was the envy of many in her youth, had long since succumbed to madness 5 years ago within the Marquis's residence. She managed to escape, but unleashed her fury at my Prime Minister's mansion, exclaiming, had it not been for you, wretched woman, I would have married the top scholar of that year. I remain oblivious to the year in which she resides, only knowing that after her tirade, she collapsed at the entrance of the mansion. When discovered, her body had long since turned cold, devoid of warmth. I often find myself reminiscing about my mother. My embroidery skills have reached an extraordinary level, yet I still take joy in stitching, for my children have never met their grandmother and frequently inquire about her appearance. Years have slipped by, leaving my memories of her dim and fragmentary. I recall her taking her embroidery to the market to sell, sharing our meager rice with the widow next door, and begging alongside me as we sought my father in Luoyang. On one occasion, driven by hunger, I reached out to snatch a large meat bun, only for my mother to grasp my hand, offering me all that remained of our cornbread. Ah, Rue, she admonished gently, no matter how bitter our circumstances, we must never resort to stealing, robbing, or taking advantage of others. Holding my 2 children close, I strive to reconstruct my mother's visage, saying, your grandmother was a paragon of kindness and diligence, never lamenting her fate. She taught me that there are no insurmountably difficult paths in this world. Whether in wealth or in poverty, both states are transient. Do not wield your power to oppress others. The narrative concludes here. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to our next tale.